Welcome to this episode of Athletic Training Chat. The hosts of Athletic Training Chat have switched up a little bit, and so in this episode we are introducing Greg Winkelman, who is currently finishing up year one of his graduate program at UW-La Crosse. We are adding him to the hosting realm, as Greg has done so much already in his short time in the athletic training profession, and really going to be able to make a big splash as he moves on in the career and in the profession. And we're looking forward to seeing what Greg brings to the table, some unique insight, and also hopefully a lot more interviews. As always, we are powered by Mueller Sports Medicine. We've had a couple really good episodes with them lately. If you haven't listened to John Kayer's episode, who is the president of Mueller, it's really interesting, and just his approach to business and kind of life in general, and how athletics and everything else around athletic training ties into that. Highly worth listening to. Also, check out Richard Davis's Recoil, the duct tape of athletic training video on our YouTube channel, or just get to athletictrainingchat.com to check that out. Highly useful tape, well worth the watch. Enjoy. Welcome to this episode of Athletic Training Chat. We have some news, I guess would be the best way to say it. We're adding another host to the mix. One of our other ones got really busy with PT school, as understandable. So we're bringing another one on board. So we'd like to introduce Greg Winkelman, who is rounding out or so the first year of his graduate athletic training program at UWL. We're looking forward to seeing where things go with Greg, not only in this context, but ultimately in his career. But we also got to know Greg from his time as what we have decided to call Eagle Aids, which, depending on where you are in the world, that could have multiple different versions, sports medicine assistant, minion, whatever it may be. So, with that, we want to introduce Greg and have Greg give a little bit of background, and then we're going to grill him with our typical 5 questions. So, how'd you get here?
All right, so I grew up about an hour and a half away from La Crosse. Kind of just knew I wanted to come here for exercise science. Didn't really have too many plans after that. I was thinking PT school for probably the first 2 years of undergrad here, and really just kind of I got into a funk and kind of lost my passion for PT. Just had some bad job shadow opportunities and things that just kind of pointed me in the wrong direction. So after about a year of being an exercise science major with really no end goal, I kind of stumbled upon athletic training and realized that I could basically do the stuff that I liked about PT in an athletic setting, which I love, and then kind of just incorporating all that stuff together into one. And I also really like the emergency setting. I just couldn't see myself being a paramedic or anything, over the top, stuff like that. So I figured it was just a really good mix of kind of the things that I like, things that I'm good at, give me a chance to network with people, talk to people, because those are kind of ultimately the things that I like to do. So,
did you have an athletic trainer in high school?
So I graduated with 79 kids in my class.
So probably not.
Very small school. We had coverage, I think, once a week.
Okay.
From a hospital that was about a half hour away.
Okay.
So it was, here's your tape for 3 kids, and then he leaves and goes to another school. So I guess in a full context, I never really had exposure to an actual athletic training setting where, you kind of get uptight, personal, get to know your athletes and stuff like that. So that was maybe another reason why I didn't stumble upon athletic training right away, because I didn't really know what one was until 2-3 years ago, and it was like, oh, that's actually sounds like something I could see myself doing for a very long time.
The stories on how people get there are always really interesting to me. Just some, they had it, they were the most wonderful person in high school, and that's why they got into it, and those are always good ones. But yeah, for people that didn't have access, it's always curious as how they got to that position. So we did mention you're in the master's program. This is the first year of it at UWL. You were around, and you have been around the undergrad program. Obviously, we're still finishing up with our seniors now. But you were also around for a semester, a little over a semester last year.
Yeah, I think it's a little over a semester.
So you got to see it a little bit more in action when there was 2 classes. How are things going? How have you felt like the grad school vibe has been? And then just kind of what you've seen from the undergrad. What are some differences?
Sure. So I guess starting with just how things are going, it's all right. I really enjoy my days just because everything is solely based on athletic training. I definitely don't miss gen eds and all your appreciation classes and stuff like that. So as far as like classwork goes, I really like that. So far it's been a little bit of a struggle just getting into a groove because you switch from sport to sport, and then all of a sudden your normal 2-hour break that you're used to turns into a 6-hour break or having no break.
You're right.
And it's been kind of hard to get into a routine, but other than that, like I've really enjoyed it. We have a really good program here. All the preceptors are really helpful. They're always kind of willing to teach you kind of those extra things that you might not get in class, and I think that's been kind of the biggest help to me is just having them available at all times to kind of get some extra stuff out of the way. And I know my past preceptor, that was one of the things that we talked about a lot in like my exit interview was really utilizing that 3 to 4 hour time of practice where, you have your pre-treats for, hour and a half, post-treats half hour, but what you do in that 3 hour span is, it could be very beneficial or it could be kind of more of a waste of time. So
right.
I think La Crosse is a great school for kind of getting those extra experiences and really talking through things so that you can kind of fully understand them. Because you can only cover so much in, 3 semesters of class and
right.
then your clinical and everything. So I think that ultimately is really one of the strong points here with the new master's program. Because I definitely feel like a guinea pig in our class. We've had a lot of things that we've switched up kind of halfway through because they weren't working, or things that the next class is going to do differently. And, all that's definitely okay and understandable. But I think what's kind of pulled that together is the preceptors just being willing to kind of take on some of that slack from switching gears and really kind of teaching us the ins and outs of stuff that we don't get in the classroom.
Right. And then next year, I think I've got this understanding, you'll be basically 8 and 8, 8 weeks class, kind of finishing up all the academic stuff for each semester, and then an 8-week full immersive. Yes.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. So that sounds fall, I think.
Yep. So you'll get a routine, whether you want it or not. It's coming. What are you looking to do? Like, what do you think you want to experience in the true life of an athletic trainer on the day to day?
Yeah, I mean that's a good question. I mean, ultimately, I think every week I kind of change my. Yeah. Oh, this would be really cool. This would be really cool.
Right.
But the few that have kind of stuck around for a little while, I've heard very mixed things about it. But I would like to see the Division I level.
Yep.
Even if it's just for a year or two, and then I got the privilege of taking a private tour at the Olympic Training Center.
Oh, nice.
And just kind of talked my way into it. Email got to the right person or whatever. So got out there for a day, and I mean, I had high expectations, and it just shattered them. I mean, brand new MRI machine right next to the treatment facility, hospital across the parking lot. So you basically have any resource you'd ever need right there. Never have to ultimately leave, the
right.
block that you're in. And then just the state-of-the-art equipment, everything's brand new. I think that would maybe be something that I'd like to kind of at least try out again for, whether that's a short period of time or a long period of time. But
they're always looking for volunteers, which I'm pretty sure you have to do to get into the mix. So
yeah, they definitely do. I went during NATA, which was kind of a mistake on my part, but it was also the only vacation time that I could really get out to Colorado in. So I think there were 3 or 4 full-time ATCs there, but there's usually 10 or 11 or something.
Gotcha.
So I got to speak with them, and then spoke with a few volunteers that were there for the day. I think gymnastics had practice and wrestling had practice. So
Okay.
they had volunteers with the full-times there at even just the practice. So it kind of shows that they do have a lot of opportunities, even though, it might not seem like that. But that was really cool. D1, I think, would just be cool to experience. I know there's maybe a little bit more politics, I guess you could say, with the mix of scholarships. And
Each place has got its own thing. Yep.
so just to experience that. Otherwise, I really, I just kind of want to see where it takes me. I've really liked the D3 setting. I like kind of these academic program settings where you have a lot of help from your students,
Mm-hmm.
but you also have to, make sure that they're doing the right thing. So,
Right.
I think that would be cool to kind of be a preceptor or even a teacher in the future for a program here or there. But yeah, I don't really have a set end goal. I'm kind of just taking it as it comes, and each day has been kind of a new thing, even just in the education program. So I think that's going to continue for quite a while, where you see new stuff and just take it as it comes. So.
There you go. One more before we get into the ATChat question, the ATChat 5. Why join a podcast? And okay, it's like a 3-part question. A, why join a podcast? B, what are you hoping to get out of doing this? And then C, what are some ones that you listen to? Because
Okay.
I've already got a list of like 30, but I'm always looking to add some other ones.
Yeah. Okay, so why get into a podcast? I guess I've always been kind of a podcast person.
Okay.
Not so much in like a professional setting or anything. I kind of listen to like the funny ones and
Mhm.
I don't know.
I got those too.
For sure. And it's just something to play in the background when I'm sick of hearing the same 20 songs that I seem to play or whatever.
Yeah.
So
On the drive. 15-minute drive to work. Plenty of time to get through some stuff.
yeah, for sure. So I guess since I've always been interested in it, I figured I seem to ask decent questions. My preceptors have kind of told me that, and
Okay.
I kind of like coming up with questions and just talking to people. Really, I'm not afraid to ask questions, and it might be a stupid question, but I'm
Right.
gonna find out the answer from the direct source. So
Right.
I guess that's ultimately why. Obviously I like the way that you and Austin think about things in a clinical setting sense, just really focusing on breaking down movement and coming up with more of a movement diagnosis for things. So just the fact that I kind of got to do this with you guys and ask questions to great people that might not have a platform to speak just seemed like a really great idea and a great opportunity.
Sounds good.
Second part of the question.
Hoping to accomplish with it.
Oh yeah. Honestly, I'm just kind of along for the ride. And,
Fair.
I really just want to network with some great people, and it'd be nice to do podcasts with people that I already know, and maybe some more UW-La Crosse faculty that haven't gotten the chance yet to do a ATChat podcast, but also just reaching out to people that I don't know and saying, I read some of your research articles and really
Absolutely.
like the way you think. So would you like to do this podcast? Or, hey, you're a trainer for a very successful collegiate team. What can you kind of provide us with our podcast? So
Yeah.
just kind of balancing that out and, just trying to reach out to as many people as possible that would be interesting for, more than just me as an audience. So.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And then what ones do you listen to? Doesn't have to be AT related.
What other podcasts?
Oh yeah.
I will say I like Joe Rogan's podcast just because it's Joe Rogan.
Yeah, he's an interesting character.
Everything he says is either funny or just really, really like hard to wrap your mind around.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I do listen to Clinically Pressed. Not to
No,
suck
you're
up to
good.
you at all or
You're
anything.
good.
I think it's a good one.
No, I was laughing because I've fallen so far behind from that one.
Yeah, it's been a while since I listened to one.
Yeah, I
but
know.
that would kind of coincide.
That's my fault.
Let's see. I do like the. I'm having a mind blank on the Milwaukee guys.
Candid ATC.
Candid AT. That might
Yeah.
be one of my favorite podcasts, just because I usually throw them on for background of studying or doing homework and stuff,
Yep.
and I can get a little bit of athletic training stuff out of it, and I can, they're pretty funny and
Yep.
laid back, so
Yep.
that would definitely
They
be
got
up
a
there
good. They got a good niche. I agree.
for sure.
They're hilarious
Yeah.
individuals.
But other than that, it's kind of been a while since I've really listened to anything but those. I would say Candid Athletic
Okay.
Training is probably the main one. Obviously, I listen to these every time they're posted, but yeah, that's about it, really.
Sounds good. Ready for the ATChat 5?
I guess, yeah.
I'm gonna try and make that like an official thing. Where do you, just getting fresh into the profession, into the education side right now, see athletic training going in the next 5 to 10 years?
5 to 10 years. I would say we're hopefully, as just a whole collective group, gonna be just a little sharper, a little better at catching things right away. I know that the master's programs that are getting instilled are really the same classes covered in the undergrad, but just the fact that you cover them in such a quick pace, I feel like you kind of grab everything more. You're not just memorizing this because you have 3 other non-related classes coming up, and
Right.
you're really grasping stuff. And if you're getting your master's in it, you want to do that for your life.
Yep.
It's not an undergraduate program to get into PA school or get into PT school. So I think people are just going to be a little more focused during the schooling part, and that's, I think, hopefully going to lead to kind of catching more concussive-like symptoms and, maybe less referrals because of catching certain things, or even more referrals for that matter. But I guess it's hard for me to say now, just from only being in school for the year or so. I think a lot of the master's programs are geared toward research too, so I think we'll maybe have a little bit more beneficial research in the near future here, just from the people that want to take that route and kind of dive into the research rather than do more of the clinical hands-on stuff. But I think there's definitely room for both. We could always use new research. We could always use more hands-on clinicians out there. So I think as long as we all just keep growing, and obviously you need your CEUs each year and stuff like that, but the people that are willing to kind of learn more and more as they go is just great for the profession, in my opinion. I mean, it's just one of those things that you got to just keep pushing forward. I know you talk a lot about being stagnant and how you can't really stand not working on something or getting something accomplished, and I think that's just a really good quality to have.
Blessing and a curse.
But to have that quality in a healthcare profession is just, I think, really, really beneficial, because it's just constantly evolving. There's a lot of kind of gray area where you need that kind of those fresh ideas and that new research that's coming out. So I think the next 5 to 10 years, as long as people are still doing that, we're going to be in a good spot.
I like it. I'm gonna change this one a little bit, since you're not really you are a young athletic trainer, so it's hard to give yourself advice. But what advice would you maybe give someone now that's an undergrad thinking about going into athletic training in a master's program? What advice would you give them?
I would definitely say a few things. One, I've kind of noticed that some of our Eagle-Aids think that this program is more of a plan B to not getting into PT school.
Yeah, we try and weed that out.
And I know that we try to weed it out, but having that mentality just through undergrad is just horrible for, your thought process, because I would agree that this isn't maybe as intense as a 3-year DPT program, but we are busy, sometimes up to 14, 15 hours a day doing athletic training based things, where you have your schooling, you have your clinical, you have all your studying to do, stuff like that. And it's definitely not so much like an easier option. And I know that yeah, your GPA might be just a little lower than our phenomenal DPT program
Right.
here, but that should not kind of play a role into why you choose to become a athletic trainer. Because I think, if you're getting your master's in something, you want to do that you want to incorporate that into your work for the rest of your life.
Right.
And if you're not willing to be a full-time athletic trainer, or do, the research on the side, stuff like that, it's, maybe look somewhere else. But I also don't want to kind of deter people from obviously coming here either. But
Yep, no, I'm with you.
that was just kind of one of the things that has been kind of irking me a little bit just through the Eagle Aid program. But otherwise, I would say just get involved with as much as you can. I know we have great opportunity here with the Eagle Aid program. You can come out, observe for up to 10 hours a week.
We look
like
for 10 hours, yeah, give or take.
But just seeing what goes on is really a huge step ahead of people that don't know what goes on in here. We kind of see Eagle Aid's first couple days. It's, wide-eyed, stand in the corner, I don't know what to do. And it's just a really good experience to kind of get some of your hands on. You might just be tying ice bags or filling water bottles, but you kind of feel like you're part of the medical team. And
it all matters.
Yeah, oh, definitely. And so I think if you can get in here for that, that's another great thing. But otherwise, just volunteering. You never really know what direction you're going to take with schooling wise. I switched up kind of late. It didn't matter with my undergrad degree necessarily, but I think what made my resume strong was just volunteering with as many things as possible. I put in time at the public library. I put in a bunch of time with the YMCA, the Livestrong program at the YMCA, which it's exercise based, it's learning based, so it does relate to your application in a way. So if you can just pound out hours wherever you can, really, nobody's going to turn you down to volunteer.
Right.
So if you have free time, I think volunteering is a great way to just really get your resume on point, and then you're just doing something good for whether it's the community or a club, or here you're volunteering for our medical team and sports teams too. I mean, you're a part of the success. So
yep.
It's just nice to be a part of something while you're also doing something for yourself at the same time.
Well said. What has been one of the most influential resources you've come across so far?
Influential resources. That's a good question. I would say even Austin Fitzpatrick, the other student host on this, he was...
Don't get a big head, Austin.
Yeah, I know shout out to Austin, I know he'll like that. But so he was in his second year rotation here with football, and that was my very first clinical rotation here. I didn't know what I was doing for the first 3-4 weeks of that. So he really helped me just kind of ease into things. Let me help him with a lot of his rehab, and kind of just any chance he got, he was really teaching me kind of basics to movement, and just really putting kind of his performance-based undergrad degree kind of to the test, and really teaching me a lot of those things, which was good review for me if I had learned it, and a really good learning experience for things that I hadn't learned yet. So he was definitely a big resource. I would say my first 2 rotations with you and Corey were awesome, because I know your big thing is letting us kind of dictate what we want to do with somebody, but explaining why.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can explain why and it makes sense, go ahead and do it. And I think that's a really good way to learn, because you never really know. You could be watching someone and it's like, oh, they have this injury, I'm gonna do that next time with that injury. Well, why were they doing that in the first place
right.
for that person? And I think it's easy to get stuck into that groove right away before you really, we didn't know what stim did, we didn't know what ultrasound did, we didn't, there's a lot of things that right away you're like, I kind of know what you'd use it for, but at the same time I'm just gonna do it because I saw someone else doing it. And I think that avoiding that is really a good thing and a great way to learn. So I know that that's kind of how you ran football, and that was really beneficial, just so it kind of makes you put the pieces together so that you're not just branching off and doing the little things,
Right.
when you could put it all together and create a better kind of movement diagnosis and stuff like that. Otherwise, Corey Wenzel, I know he's done a couple of these chats on here. He covers women's basketball at La Crosse, and he was just a phenomenal preceptor. So we would do pre-treats down here. You'd run your plan with the athlete through, and it was, okay, let me know how it goes. And as long as we were, within the lines and could explain things kind of
Right.
like football, it was just a really good experience to be that autonomous kind of that early. And I think I had cleared ankle, knee, elbow, wrist. So I had some shin splints and a couple of knee things, stuff like that I had been kind of fully cleared to work on. And it was cool just being kind of the sole person involved in the process. And I think that just Corey's oversight was awesome. He's really good with the diagnostic ultrasound tool.
Yep.
And we don't get a whole lot of imaging kind of introduction, so he did a lot of just teaching periods where we'd sit here for 20 minutes and, let's look at your Achilles and your patellar tendon and stuff like that. And I think that was super beneficial too, just to see him do the stuff that he's really good at. But the thing that I absolutely loved about having Corey was we'd go up to practice, do our notes at the beginning of practice so they were done right away, and then the entire time after that was conversations about how to treat a certain injury, what you would do in this circumstance. One of the other seniors had a BOC prep book, so we would put our input in on every question.
Mm-hmm.
And there was never just a stale moment of not learning or doing something athletic training related.
Those indoor court sports can be really nice for that.
So that was just really, really beneficial to me. It kind of just pushed me to bring more questions and bring more things to work on. And in order to get questions ready, I was reading more articles than I really
Yep.
ever have, and reading more, extra textbook readings and stuff like that. So I think that just kind of opened my eyes to how hard you can actually work and try to get ahead when you're, in a very fast learning environment like this. So.
Absolutely. If you could change or eliminate one thing, could be a modality, a common practice, or a mindset in the field of athletic training, what would it be?
Oh man, eliminate one thing. I would say.
Or change. You wouldn't have to
Or
eliminate
change.
it. Yeah. We won't go as hardcore.
So I know a few people that I work closely with and or have in class would kind of disagree, but I think changing the way that people really go about modalities, I think especially when you're kind of starting out and young, you want to kind of use a modality for everything.
Mm-hmm.
When rehab and rest might really be kind of your best options, or insert whatever treatment here. But
Yep.
I think if we could change something, it would just be cutting back on some of the modality use, because you really don't need to ultrasound every injury for superficial heat, or use a lot of the tools that we have. I know a lot of people are like, oh, let's throw everything we can at them. Well, let's just see what works and what doesn't work before we
Time and place.
start throwing everything at them. So I think just kind of taking a step back, relaxing, and figuring out what works for that specific person, because everyone's going to kind of be different with how they react to things. So not getting in a routine of, oh, we need to ultrasound this, we need to diathermy this right away. And
Right.
It's like, well, let's see how today goes, and then change our treatment plan for tomorrow and stuff like that. So I'd say maybe that would be probably the change that I would.
Okay. I like it. Well, almost the last one. What will being an athletic trainer mean to you, since you are but you aren't?
Yeah.
Officially.
No, I gotcha. I mean, it would really mean everything to me. That's kind of been the goal ever since I stumbled upon it a couple years ago. And the more and more I look into just the daily approach to athletic training and the the many different settings and stuff like that. It's you're just constantly growing, constantly almost forced to keep learning, which I think is awesome. There's not a whole lot of other professions outside healthcare where you have to just constantly keep yourself updated with what's working, what's new, what new procedures that you have to do, stuff like that. So I think just being a part of that is going to be really good for me, because I also hate just being stagnant and not kind of learning new skills, new things. So I'm really looking forward to that. Otherwise, I really like the responsibility of having, to take care of emergencies, take care of injuries. I don't really mind paperwork, stuff like that. So really all these aspects put together in one, I don't really have a negative thought about it. So that's kind of how I know that I'm really going to enjoy working as an athletic trainer in the future.
Last one. If people wanted to get in touch with you, where could they best get a hold of you? Obviously, if you go through the website or our Twitter, we'll get a hold of Greg for you. But
yeah, I do respond to kind of my school email, which I think will be on here.
Yep, we can add that.
Otherwise, I don't really care if they have my phone number. I don't know if you want to add that or not.
Throw that out there right now.
But I'd say email is probably best. I'm pretty much always in Mitchell Hall somewhere. Whether that's
if you're on campus here, you can come find Greg.
You can catch me at Mitchell Hall. Usually in the athletic training room, the kind of study right next door, or upstairs in the staff strength center. I teach a class Monday, Wednesday nights if you have any questions, from 8 to 9. So I'll also be kind of up in the hallway up there by the staff training center across from the gyms. But yeah, I mean, if you have any questions or anything, I definitely respond to your email, hopefully pretty fast, and can get the ball rolling on anything.
Perfect. Well, welcome aboard, and we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, thank you very much.